Nosferatu, the ultimate cuck story.
They should have called this movie My Wife's Boyfriend is a Vampire.
No, but that's going to be our title for this video.
Yeah, this film is definitely about a cuck.
It's completely about a cuck.
Robert Eggers.
I don't dislike him, but
No.
I don't clamor for his next movie to come out.
To me, he's become like the most overrated guy. He's talented, don't get me wrong.
Oh, sure, yeah.
I was so excited for The Northman. It had a great trailer, and I thought, man, maybe he's going to break away from that arty bullshit that he's into.
Wait, I mean, yeah.
The Northman was like an arty version of Conan the Barbarian. That's
right.
what it was.
Well, what I liked about the idea of The Northman was it's based on like the story.
It's Hamlet.
That is Hamlet.
Yeah.
It was based on. So, and I was always a big fan of Hamlet.
That sounds kind of gay.
So I was excited about that one, and then I watched it, and I was like,
Literally exactly how I felt.
yeah.
I didn't hate it, but I was just like,
No, I just, yeah.
Not great, not terrible.
Getting into this one, I kind of walked away with the same, like, yeah, it was okay.
I think my biggest issue with him is he has this uncanny ability to take moments in movies that would, in the hands of another director, be epic or large scale. He makes it feel like more claustrophobic, smaller than it should be.
Yeah, we talked about this right after we saw it. People like really praising the cinematography and the composition and the shot and style, and it's like, yeah, I mean, the cinematography is good if you can see it, because it's a very claustrophobic film. And you know, that might tie into the story or how he sees scenes in his head or whatever, but sitting there watching it, I just wanted to see more of what was happening in some of these scenes.
Yeah, and it's not just the interiors or the castle or what
Well,
inside these tight quarters. It's not just that.
Yeah.
It's also how he films things outside. Things that should have vistas. You don't really get that.
Yeah, there's a few moments in the film where you're seeing what I guess is supposed to be a vista, or you're supposed to be looking at it like a wide shot happening, and you're only seeing like a sliver of it. Now you could say like, oh yeah, he's framing it in a certain way, but I don't know, maybe that's just a preference. When they're in the town and they're carrying the coffins, but like you're looking at that scene through like an alleyway.
Yeah.
And like you're seeing buildings, and it's just like, you know, you go back to like the other iterations of this film, and there's like these sprawling shots of them carrying the coffins through the town. You see like it's affecting the whole town, this plague. But in that's like one shot where it's just like you said, claustrophobic. And
yeah, there are some shots in the film where it is like the standard wide shot, where it is showing you a little bit more of the world that you're in, but it just doesn't feel like it's really opening it the way it should. Some people might say that's a good thing, where you're like, you're making it feel more personal. I don't think that it's that. I just feel like the way his visual style applies to this, it just ends up making it claustrophobic.
I feel like that style worked a lot better in The Witch.
Absolutely, yes.
And The Witch is probably my favorite of his films.
I would say so, yeah.
And that, like, it worked really well in that film, because that whole film takes place in that one location.
Mm-hmm. The filmmaking style definitely to that particular story. The Northman and Nosferatu, these are bigger movies.
These are bigger, more epic stories.
Yes.
So I feel like the filmmaking should have been more epic. He's got his style, and people appreciate it, so.
This is going to be really hard for me not to compare this movie to Bram Stoker's Dracula.
I'm sure some comparisons are going to come up.
That movie, in my opinion, Bram Stoker's Dracula, that is also kind of an arty film. The techniques employed by Francis Ford Coppola, go back and watch that film if you haven't seen it in a while. He approached that movie by shooting everything in camera and like using silent film techniques.
When you're getting the whole backstory of Vlad and he's like killing people.
It's like cutouts.
It's like cutouts. It's very artistic.
That film is like an arty movie, but it has more scale than this film does.
Yeah, because this is based on the 1922 film. You don't really get any kind of backstory about Orlok or where he came from. I mean, you do with Dracula, but this is the unofficial, unlicensed version of the story, so it's just like, he just exists. And if you haven't seen the 1922 Nosferatu, and I know a lot of people haven't, this was like something I watched a ton in like film school. And, like, we studied it, you know, because it's kind of like the birth of the horror movie. It's 100 years old, silent, black and white. If you could stomach it, it's free on YouTube. You can watch it, and I do recommend that people watch it because there's so much in this film that has inspired like just decades and decades.
Everything.
Literally everything.
Not even just horror, like just cinema in general.
Right.
Yeah.
And Eggers, he's getting so much credit for everything with this film in terms of like story, and people are acting like he invented the fucking vampire. But if you compare it to the original film, it is very, very close. In terms of story, it's nearly identical.
I mean, there's even similar shots.
There's very similar shots and very, scenes that are just one for one in a lot of ways. Now, he did craft like a plot that is different in terms of the connection that Ellen has with the vampire, the telepathic connection they have that goes back her whole life. The connection there wasn't really fleshed out in the original film. It's non-existent. She does have some like nightmares and some premonitions in the original, but that's like the big alteration in the new film. I was hoping that he was gonna mix things up a little bit, so by the time we got to the third act, it was going to be like, oh, this is kind of fresh, like, where's he going with this? We're not going to end exactly the same way the original ends, and it does, and it's like, I wish he had taken a few more liberties. So a lot of people are praising like the cinematography. Okay, it's decent, but this is a technique I have not seen in a major Hollywood film in quite a while, actually. There's a lot of day for night shots in this film. I looked it up after the fact because a lot of the nighttime scenes with Ellen where she's like looking out the window and she's bathed in the moonlight, they were day for night.
Sure.
They literally just pulled out the other color tones and left blues.
Just for you guys that don't know, day for night is when you shoot a scene in the fucking daytime, or on set you use filters, but you color grade it to make it look like it's nighttime. And
now,
some movies are so obvious that they do it.
Right. Now, obviously, the original 1922 film had to do it for obvious reasons. There's a lot of shots in that film that take place at night where there's kind of like a blue wash over the image, and then you watch scenes during the day and there's more of like a reddish tinge to it. That kind of bothered me quite a bit.
No, day for night sucks and it's fucking lazy.
I hate day for night.
To be fair to them, usually you do day for night out of necessity.
Well, yeah, because of a limitation.
They were kind of using it as like a creative choice.
A creative choice. Maybe it was a callback to like how they would have done it 100 years ago. There were a lot of shots in the film that did look amazing, that did stand out to me, like, oh yeah, and I could actually see the cinematography, I could see the composition. Like when the carriage
The best example is the carriage scene.
When the carriage comes to pick him up, just that sequence alone where he's standing on that road with the tree line and like the snow and the carriage comes, like, beautiful.
It was. That's the scene where I thought, okay, finally we have like, this looks good. And it felt like you were in a weird dream the way they did it.
Yes.
But that's the only thing that really stood out in terms of like, oh wow, this is some cool imagery.
There's plenty of shots in this movie where it's like, oh yeah, it looks like he lit it for the time period.
Yeah, it's got
a lot of candlelight
going on. It's got that Barry
on.
Lyndon
Right, yeah, and I know Eggers,
stuff.
like, as a filmmaker, he's like really into authenticity and making sure that period pieces are accurate and clothing is accurate, and I'm sure that is the same for his lighting. It didn't jump out at me the way it's jumping out at a lot of people, I guess. I don't know.
It's just Dracula directed by a hipster. Yeah. That's what this fucking movie is.
Yeah, it's a hipster Dracula. Speaking of our Dracula himself, Mr. Unofficial Count Orlok.
Oh my God.
Holy Jesus.
One of the most iconic images in cinema history is Orlok coming through that door in the castle when he's going after the dude.
Not even that shot. It's also the one after when he's...
Oh, he's coming up the shadows.
No, he's like, I think he bites her, then he's like looking up at the camera. That's fucking terrifying. The original Nosferatu is over 100 years old at this point, and the design of that character
it's still more frightening.
Is far superior than what we got in this.
Yeah, so they designed this character to be, I guess, period accurate.
He's got a fucking walrus mustache.
And the walrus mustache, you could say it's as period authentic as possible. That doesn't make it any less stupid. I don't care how accurate it is to history. I'm still going to make fun of it because it looks stupid. And he's got like a comb over. He's got the comb over and a mustache.
He looks like the guy who cuts my hair.
However, when they showed him in the silhouettes coming through, he still had the silhouette of the original Orlok.
Kind of, yeah. Minus the ears.
Minus the ears, right. The point, at the end of the day, he's a fucking vampire. And they never get into how old he is or how long he's been around. Like,
I'm totally cool with that. I wasn't clamoring to know the backstory.
No, not even. I'm not even getting into that about the backstory. I'm talking about like his look could have predated this like Romanian everybody has a mustache look.
He's a creature now.
Right. So he's like basically a walking corpse with a giant burly mustache.
You know, if it looks like shit and it sounds like shit, then it must be shit.
To me, it's just more of this like postmodern bullshit where it's like, oh, you thought that was iconic, you like that design. No, well, we're gonna strip it down. We're gonna make it bare bones this time. And it's like, fuck that. How can something from 1922 just imagine if they had like the same lighting of this film and everything, but that makeup, that design,
yeah, right?
You know?
But, you know, speaking of Skarsgård, like, I still thought he did a good job in the role.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I still thought he kind of, like, disappeared into that character.
Minus the whole
the voice.
fat guy snoring while awake thing that he was doing.
At first I was like, oh, this voice is kind of interesting. And then after a while it starts getting a little like...
Because he's just like...
Okay. Yeah, just like the breathing voice. It starts getting to be a little much.
Yeah.
After a while. At first, it was kind of like, oh, okay, yeah. And the first time you hear it is the dinner scene where he cuts his thumb and then he goes to the fireplace. Like, that was one of my favorite scenes in the movie.
Yes.
And, shocker, lifted right from the 1922 version
Sure.
where he's sitting at the table and he cuts his thumb and the vampire's like, whoa, let me just get a taste of that, and backs him up against the fireplace. Like, it's all the same. Eggers just, you know, he lit it better. Okay.
Key.
The actors are all really good in
No,
this
the
film.
actors are fine. Like,
yeah,
Nicholas Hoult was a total standout.
He's the standout. Like, he is so good in this movie. And, like, the first, like, 30% of this film is basically
him.
his
Yeah,
movie.
it's his
And
character.
From the introduction of his character and all the way to when he gets to the castle and he starts seeing all the weird shit. Like,
Yeah, he's carrying that movie.
He really is.
Yeah.
And really good actor. Like, I can't say enough about his performance in it. He's probably not going to get the acclaim that, you know...
No, it's all going to go to Skarsgård. It's going to go to Depp.
Depp, yeah, exactly.
Like, in the original, the wife kind of gets sidelined for the first half of the film because it's just following the Thomas character. They want to pull you in more with her character, so they have her with the psychic connection to Orlok the whole time. So they're constantly on her with that going back and forth while Hutter is at the castle.
Yeah.
So Depp had more to chew on with this role than like in the original. There were aspects of that I did like a lot, but at times it was like, why is everyone obsessed with this bitch? It's like,
She just says the most offbeat, crazy shit.
Everyone was dead. The stench of their bodies was horrible, but I'd never been so happy.
Psycho talk.
yeah, and everyone's just like, she just does that.
Yeah, and I'm like, bro.
They treat it like it's...
I'm like, what did you see in this chick? Right. She clearly is fucking crazy.
All the dick swanger you roll, you can't spot crazy pussy.
well, no, he helped her. He got her through the hard times.
Yeah, I mean, she like talks about getting banged by death, basically, just being really happy, and he's just like,
Yeah, he's telling her these stories about like, oh yeah, I'm like getting married to death, and everyone around me is dead, and I'm like just like super happy, and he's like, okay,
that's
all right,
cool.
well, that's cool.
We'll
Well,
never speak of this again.
Yeah, we're gonna sideline that for the rest of our lives. I'm gonna go meet this count and get us a fuck ton of money so we can live the life that you deserve.
So I can fund you being crazy. She was a crazy bitch, dude.
Another difference in the new one compared to the original was the Aaron Taylor Johnson character.
Oh, Capital Man.
Capital Man.
Sound like you're from London.
He's fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, all the actors are great in it, but like he was another standout.
Oh yeah.
Just because he's got a smaller role, but he's got that role of kind of like the straight man. Like, what the fuck is going on here? And his character in the original, he's like a friend of the couple, but it's just him and it's his sister. And him and his sister both survived the original film. This one, they give him daughters, the wife, and he becomes a more integral part to that story, and I like that. I like that they actually gave him like a bigger story.
He's looking after her while Thomas is at the castle.
Yeah, and he's got his own family to worry about.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like, did a really good job at like balancing all that. And when
Walking
shit
that
starts
line,
going
yeah.
south, you sympathize with them.
Yeah,
like, you
yeah.
understand where he's coming from.
He's not just painted as this like straight asshole.
No,
it's like
no.
there's a few moments, you know, like when Willem Dafoe shows up and he's like, "Oh, you tied her to the bed," and he's like, "Yeah, she was fucking going nuts, dude. Like, what did you want me to do? Just lock her outside? She was hurting herself." They kind of justify his actions a little bit, even if they're like wrong in the eyes of, you know,
modern
science or whatever. They don't paint him as like just being this like terrible person.
Sure.
Like, his character's good. He's well developed.
He almost borderline kind of like being sarcastic in the scenes.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
knowing that he's gonna put on this ridiculous accent but he's just having fun with it. You
Yeah,
know?
he does feel like he's having fun in the movie.
I enjoyed every time he came on screen.
Yeah,
like,
he definitely, like, your eye just goes to him and you're like, what's he gonna say next?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he's fantastic. And then that leads, of course, to our foe Van Helsing, Willem Dafoe.
We have not become so much enlightened as we have been blinded by the gaseous light of science.
Fantastic actor.
Yeah.
Love the guy. He showed up. I don't know, I kind of thought he was being a little over the top at times.
I have seen things in this world that would have made Isaac Newton crawl back into his mother's womb.
I don't want to say he went as like goofy or anything, but it did feel like he was hamming it up a little.
Again, compared to Bram Stoker's Dracula, but Anthony Hopkins kind of approached it the same way.
Yeah.
Obviously, I like the Anthony Hopkins take better. Willem Dafoe still did good. Like, I agree with you, though. He definitely was kind of hamming it up a bit.
Okay, so one of the scenes that really solidified that opinion for me was towards the end when he leads the expedition into the house to kill Orlok, but it's actually Knock in the coffin there. That's when Nicholas Hoult realizes he's actually going after my wife right now. And Willem Dafoe, instead of being like very sympathetic, like this was the only way, man, like this had to be done this way, he's like fucking cackling like,
Yeah.
we had to do it. That scene, like he was unhinged.
Exactly, and that it just seemed.
And I didn't like that for the
scene would
character.
come out of nowhere.
Yeah, but then like once they go to the house and they find her there with Orlok and Orlok's dead, he's measured again. If I was Nicholas Hoult, I'd be like, you son of a bitch, like we should have had a conversation about like maybe we could have helped her or something, and maybe that plan would have gone south because, you know, obviously her sacrifice is very important to the story at the end. But he didn't even consider that as an option. Like, we'll hide in the room, like whatever. It's just like, no, I'm gonna lead them away and then I'm gonna cackle about it. That was weird for that character.
Weird.
And like you said, they come in the fucking room, Orlok's on top of his wife. Now my first thought as a husband, I'd go over there and just fucking kick his ass right off the bed.
Without question, Orlok dies on her, and Nicholas Hoult comes in the room, and he's just cool with him being on top of her.
Solidifying his role as the ultimate cuck.
He is a total fucking cuck, and then like has his moment with her while
while he's still on top of her. I'd be like, get the fuck off my wife.
Yeah,
no.
that should be every man's
first guttural reaction.
Yes.
No, he just leaves her there, and he's like, you did good, honey, and I guess we'll just leave him here.
You've made a cuckold of me.
Now, obviously, they weren't going to do anything ridiculous, like Orlok just vanishes in the original film, like just disappears and there's a little smoke on the ground. This, like, he's still there. He doesn't evaporate. Like, I did like how his face just started pouring blood and everything.
Yeah, he's like sucking her blood, and then some of the blood that he has,
he starts regurgitating
he
it.
Coughs it out. It's kind of gross.
Yeah,
he was gross, and I did appreciate that.
I did like that though. Like they made him like a disgusting creature, like a real vampire, not a real vampire, but like the way a vampire should be portrayed as this evil creature.
Yeah, and
like not romanticized.
Since it's a Robert Eggers film, he can't just like have the vampire bite them on the neck and then suck their blood like every other movie. In this,
no, it's way more sensual if it's
he like
on the chest,
bites on the chest, and he does this weird like undulating sucking thing with his whole body.
Yeah, that was kind of his own take on it. I didn't mind that at all.
I appreciated that. Yeah, it added to the fact that he's a creature and he's gross and disgusting. And then, but when he dies, it's not like in Blade or something where they just
poof.
They turn into ashes and shit. You know?
No, so, he kind of like shriveled up and just kind of died.
Looked like he skipped leg day.
Looked like he skipped leg day.
It was just like so fucking dorky looking.
That shot still bothers me as the last shot of the film. I was just trying to figure out like what is the message he's trying to get across in that final shot where like they're both dead but they're like together. Like she's with the real guy now in eternity where her husband's just over there like, you know, like
her husband's sitting in the chair in the corner.
Yeah, just watching them like hand down his pants. I go, what the fuck?
I didn't hate it. I didn't.
I didn't hate the movie. No, we thought it was okay. It's just, just the amount of love it's getting. Yeah, just eludes us a little bit.
And like, yes, I know this is Nosferatu, not Dracula. This is fucking Dracula, okay?
Yeah.
Nosferatu.
I want that like definitive Dracula film. To me, Francis Ford Coppola came the closest. My only complaint about that movie is that he emphasizes a little too much in the romance department, and that gets
played up quite a bit.
It could have been scarier, you know. This movie is not scary. It's darker than Bram Stoker's
It's darker.
Dracula.
All the scenes where Orlok is kind of like in the shadows and you're only seeing like the silhouettes and stuff like that stuff works so much better.
Yeah.
And once he comes out, you're just like, oh, Okay, this is what we get. Like you said, it's not scary, but there are moments of like dread.
Yeah, it's got
and
like a
terror that kind of work really well.
It's got a dreadful tone that does work really well.
Yeah,
I
there's
never
a
got
couple
creeped
jump
out.
scares in the movie.
Yeah,
But-
I don't even remember them.
Yeah, like there's one on the boat. There's a couple that pop up where he kind of just like jumps out and attacks somebody. It's not that type of movie. I don't even know if I'd call it a slow burn.
If someone watched it and said, this is slow, I would understand what they're saying.
Yeah,
I wasn't bored.
There were some scenes that could have been tighter, but yeah, like I was never bored.
The music.
Okay, here's another thing. People are just loving on the score, and it's
No,
like,
fuck.
no.
And you got to bring Bram Stoker's Dracula into this.
Yeah.
That score to that movie is phenomenal. That's like one of my probably my top 5 all-time film scores. This does not.
Do you know who did the score for this one?
Yeah, the composer is this guy named Robin Carolan. I mean, seems like a talented guy. There's a couple okay moments in there, but it's not a memorable score like Bram Stoker's Dracula was. Holy shit, that is such a fantastic, phenomenal soundtrack.
Yeah.
This,
as far as sound design goes, though, like I was okay with that.
Yeah.
That was decent.
yeah, all the sound effects, all that, top notch.
Yeah.
That's what we keep running into in this review. Everyone's sucking this movie's dick.
Yeah.
That bothers me. It doesn't deserve that acclaim, in our opinion. What do you think about Nosferatu?
Well, seems like every 40 to 50 years we get a remake of the film that kind of started it all. A lot of things I liked. There were a lot of things that I was meh about. I keep saying it's okay. I thought it was a little better than okay. So I ended up going 6 out of 10.
That's exactly what I gave it. To me, it was between a 5.5 or a 6, but landed on a 6.
6? Yeah, 6 is good.
Even though we did enjoy it, we weren't like, oh my God, Robert Eggers has done it again. He has just crushed it so hard. It's like,
Honestly, to the people that loved this movie, you're not going to watch it ever again.
well, I mean,
Seriously, like,
no, the Eggers fans will. They will.
I feel like they're going to say they watched it twice.
The only film of his I've ever watched more than once is The Witch.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
Because I feel that's the only movie worth watching more than once. I mean, Northman, whatever. The fucking Lighthouse, I have zero interest in watching.
I haven't seen it.
That just looks like a movie, a couple actors blowing each other for 2 hours.
Oh, yeah, it's
just an actor
actor
showcase.
jerk-off fest.
And some people like that. I'm not going to watch a movie just because there's 2 actors in it. And this, I probably won't watch this again.
No, I mean, didn't hate it. Thought some of it was cool, but I watch Bram Stoker's Dracula every Halloween. I keep bringing up that goddamn movie.
There's not enough in this for me to go back. On our other scale.
Yeah, I mean, there was some stuff that was a little. Look, I get that back then women were treated like shit.
Yeah, okay.
I understand
Obviously,
that.
yes. There's some heavy, fucking repression themes going on and sexuality themes running through this. But
that woman is saying a bunch of heretic shit.
just tired to her bed, whatever. You know what I mean? Obviously, there's all that shit in the movie, but it is very appropriate to the time period. So I don't really look at that as it's just modern woke shit or whatever.
They could have used it for that. They could have really pushed that.
Yeah, to preach some shit, but it's not like that. Pretty straightforward and of the time. I only went 0.5.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. I mean, it was a shame that they tried making Lily Rose Depp, whatever the hell her name is, very androgynous looking. She can be attractive, but in this film, you're wondering why
everybody's simping over her?
Yeah, what's the obsession, man? You're a nice enough dude. You're okay looking. You could have gotten someone that was less of a crazy bitch,
His destiny was always to be a cuck.